Hi, in this video I'm going to read you the financial horror story entitled The Curse of the Fund Pharaoh. It's covered in Swiss Frankenstein Financial Horror Stories on page 91. It has been inspired by The Curse of the Pharaohs and Death on the Nile by Agatha Christie. The Curse of the Fund Pharaoh. The Pharaoh Fund has become the most successful fund of Egypt, thanks to you all and many more investors. And thanks to excellent performance, of course. Haha. Osiris was standing on an elevated part of the front deck of a very long yacht, close to a dark wooden part at the bow that went high up in the air to end in an elegant curl. He was wearing white trousers and a white shirt, black chest hair visible above the third highest button. His skin was tanned as caramel, his teeth white as an Egyptian cotton sheet, his hair dark as Giza desert sky, his sunglasses gold as Tutankhamun's death mask. We have realized an annual return of over 25% over the past 5 years, investing in the most promising Egyptian tech and other companies, making them successful and selling them off. You will want to know how I know what companies are promising? He looked at a thin man standing next to him, a man without a smile, having slightly hollow eyes. I introduce you to the manager of the Pharaoh Fund. I call him Imhotep. He's the director of the Pharaoh Fund's management company, Imhotep Management LLC. I've named it after the vizier of Pharaoh Djoser and high priest of sun god Ra. He was the one to build the first pyramid. Our very own Imhotep has created pyramid partners, under my supervision of course. Haha. Osiris had become Egypt's wealthiest man, the most successful investor, a private equity tycoon. He was the Henry Kravis of Egypt, but now he was not the barbarian at the gate. Osiris was nicknamed the Fund Pharaoh. He was the biggest, the greatest, the richest, and he was going to show it. Crowds and paparazzi were gathered on the shores of downtown Cairo as the creme de la creme of Egyptian and international investors came on board the unique super yacht that was anchored at window of the Nile at the southern tip of Zamalek, the island in the middle of the Nile in the heart of Cairo. The Osiris was a 143.4 meter long replica of Pharaoh Khufu's famous solar ship that was exactly 100 meters smaller and had been buried with Pharaoh Khufu next to his great pyramid at Giza. It was now in the Grand Egyptian Museum close to his pyramid. Unlike Khufu, Osiris was not planning to wait for the afterlife to use his solar ship to sail with sun god Ra. Osiris was going to sail down the Nile with the Egyptian and international jet set that invested in his Pharaoh Fund. This solar ship was 4,600 years newer, built by Lürsen in Germany, and boasted 2 helicopter pads that would both turn into dance floors, swimming pools, dining areas, or even car parkings. The central part of the relatively slim solar ship included 30 berths with all luxury to accommodate 40 guests and 50 staff. Osiris was at the start of celebrating the 10th anniversary of Pyramid Partners, his private equity firm, as well as the 5th anniversary of running the highest yielding fund of Egypt. In fact, of the entire MENA region, with management fees of 3% and a carried interest on investment of 25% meanwhile, his wealth had skyrocketed. The yacht was his latest and most spectacular toy, and from today onwards, on its spectacular maiden voyage. A select group of his most cherished and loyal investors, about 40 of them, would sail with him down the Nile to Luxor. Select media had been invited on board for the opening speech and photo opportunities. Osiris was a god in his own right, and he was going to flaunt it. No investor has ever left the Pharaoh Fund, he said, whilst cameras flashed and 40 well-fed faces faced him. God forbid. Anyone who does may be cursed, haha. His white teeth seemed sharper than normal as he spoke. A faint smile appeared on the face of Imhotep as well next to him. We haven't given any investor a reason to leave. He looked over the crowd, saw the cameras. We will not give them a reason. Our returns are sky high. This solar ship will not just sail to Luxor, we are in fact sailing the sky of investment returns. We are sailing sky high, haha. Your funds incubate the most talented entrepreneurs of Egypt, the most successful, and we will make them grow further, much further, to the next level. Then we sell. It's very simple. We buy low, sell high. But the difficult part, the part distinguishes us from mediocre investors is Onur's Osiris looked down, walked a small circle in the elevated part of the solar ship, and looked up again, faced the crowd, the cameras. Talent. It is talent. Talent is our alpha, our forte. Anyone can buy expertise, education, but talent is not easily found. Developed. Talent to find talent, talent to find new market opportunities, talent to invest at the right time in the right people to achieve the right growth. Ladies and gentlemen, this cruise will be a celebration of talent, of your talent to invest with us, to keep investing with us, to increase your investments, to find more investors. Let us all celebrate. The giant solar ship packed with the rich and famous left shortly after, sailing graciously along the flashes of countless paparazzi cameras and the keen eyes of mortals on the banks of the Nile in downtown Cairo, as well as by a virally growing global crowd online. The publicity has had a good effect. 12 investors have shown an interest to participate in the fund already, considering to commit over $500 million. The ship had sailed overnight and was further south on the Nile. Imhotep had taken Onurus aside on the rear deck, where guests were taken after parties, lunches and other events on the boat to relax. Appropriately, the deck was named the Afterlife. Onurus nodded with his characteristic wide smile, referred to by the non-Egyptian guests as Snile. Pretty much everything around Onurus Osiris had an Egyptian name or connotation. Imhotep continued. There is some bad news as well, though. One of our guests just mentioned that he has instructed his staff to sell a big chunk of his participation. It was time to sell. The ride can't keep going up forever, he said. Imhotep nodded in the direction of one of the men sitting a few tables away. Onur's smile was gone. We can't have this, especially not in public, and after me saying that no investor has ever pulled out. Time for a warning, Imhotep suggested. His faint smile returned. Onur's Osiris nodded. Indeed, his smile was back for a moment. His face then turned frozen, as if in a trance as he murmured something in ancient Arabic phrase, meaning, death will come on swift wings to him who leaves the pyramid partners. The limited partner that had sold a chunk of his participation stood up and seemed to walk to the restroom on the starboard side of the solar ship. Onurus and Imhotep were among the few people that paid attention. There was a sound of something splashing into the water. It took another 10 seconds or so before screams were heard from the water, screams that slowly moved to the stern of the solar ship that was moving at low speed. The participants gradually stood up and went to the side of the boat to see what was going on. Onurus and Imhotep stayed where they were until a voice cried, "Someone is caught by a crocodile!" The long shrub body of a crocodile was visible in the water, wildly going up and down in what looked like a wrestling. The water turned red in places, and pieces of clothes were visible. The atmosphere on the solar ship was dead as the limited partner that ended up in the water. One person had seen how the man tripped or lost his balance for some unclear reason and fell to the side of the boat, ending overboard. More people had witnessed how an apparently very large crocodile, about 5 meters long according to some that saw the mouth and the tail, came up and tore the body apart in wild moves. This marked the point where most limited partners were watching. Onurus Osiris made a short announcement that a helicopter would pick up the body shortly to enable the family to arrange the funeral. He finished making a point of continuing the celebration despite the tragic event of which sadly many happen around the world. After a helicopter had landed on the front deck heliport and picked up the corpse, the limited partners were inevitably discussing the events that happened. Theories of the limited partner tripping were dominant, but a few investors half-jokingly referred to the curse, as the investor had been boasting about the profit he was going to make upon selling part of his investment in the Pharaoh fund. As the second night set in, the 143.4-meter long solar ship continued to move slowly along the fertile banks of the Nile down to Luxor. The full moon cast a magical light on the most unique super yacht built by Luerssen as the second of 5 courses was underway. One of the foreign limited partners, an American, was in the middle of a private debate on the investment performance of the Pharaoh fund with his neighbor across the table. She was an Egyptian lady, member of a wealthy old family. I think the Pharaoh fund might actually be a true pyramid fund, a Ponzi scheme. It's hard to find any fund that has always gone up, except for Ponzi schemes. Think Madoff. He looked her in the eyes, just as Imhotep passed behind her. More than anything, he was also looking for new investors and increase of capital. Imhotep cast a grim look at the American. Haha, laughed the Egyptian lady. No way. All fund managers want more investors and investment. And even if it's so, let's enjoy the ride up. We have another skeptical investor, Imhotep whispered in the ear of Onurus. The American is suggesting the Pharaoh fund is a Ponzi scheme. A visionary, said Onurus with a calm voice as he watched across 2 tables to the table where the American was seated. But his vision will soon be blurred. He whispered the same few words in ancient Egyptian he had whispered before. The Egyptian scratched his mouth as his conversation with the lady had come to an end. He was now walking to his neighbor, another foreign investor from Asia. His mouth was itching as he felt cramps in his stomach emerging. You have a rash developing around your mouth. Perhaps you need to have a look? I will, said the American. Excuse me. He walked off to the toilet. His legs felt light, as if they were disappearing. His walk was slower, less balanced than normal. He made it to the toilet, barely on time from peeing in his pants. What the F is this? His urine was dark yellow with red color through it. It came out with agonizing pain. Am I peeing needles or what? I need to see a doctor. He couldn't stand up. His legs were motionless, without feeling, paralyzed. Help, he shouted, help! One of the staff opened the door and brought another staff. Imhotep followed at a distance, directing him to a quiet room in the underworld part of the solar ship, below deck. Onurus Osiris had named this part of the solar ship after the underworld, as his surname was the same as the god of Osiris, ruler of the underworld. He brought in a medically trained staff member and spoke with him. Bill Hartia, he said to the staff member, a very acute form. He must have been exposed to Nile water. Stupid and dangerous. Pharaohs of the 5th dynasty spread it across Egypt with their import of slaves and monkeys. We can't do much for him, I'm afraid. He will be eaten from within by countless parasite flatworms. He left the room with a faint smile on his face, whilst the staff was sitting silently by the American who was crying of pain. The announcement of the second death after breakfast the next morning came as a shock, despite the apparent medical reason of having been in touch with Nile water. The crowd on board felt quiet for a while before the talk continued as Luxor became visible. I think this boat is cursed. Time to get off, said one investor. Just bad luck, said another. I don't know what's going on, and I don't really care. The Pharaoh fund remains a great investment, and this trip has been wonderful apart from these incidents, said a third person. One thing did become clear. No existing investor dared leaving the fund thereafter.